Hello.
Hey, Don, it's Mark.
Hey.
Seems to be it works great. For some reason, I can't call you um, within my email for some reason. There's like a sidebar where it says you can call, but it doesn't allow it. So not really sure why. But as long as it's working, welcome back to the show, I guess.
All right. Cool.
Yeah. So let's see here. So Webster is also on Skype, but right now I think he's just kind of hanging out on the side. So tonight's show, now we're going to talk to Don Carlson. Now we've talked to you, I guess, 2 weeks ago or so. Was it 2 weeks or 3 weeks already?
I can't remember. I think it's been 2 weeks.
Yeah. And now Don is the creator of something called Puppet Putty, which is a type of clay that. Now I am hearing an echo, Don. Are you hearing one also, by any chance?
Not too much, and I have the show muted on my YouTube.
Okay, it might be because my speakers are too loud, so let me just
Okay.
lower my speakers a bit. Okay. So sorry about that. So yeah, back to what we were saying. Don created Puppet Putty, but Don is also known for his vocal and musical talents. And I guess how many films have you made, Don, where you've used either your voice as a voice actor, and music and so forth? I mean, you've done a lot of audio stuff, haven't you?
Yeah, I've also recorded for some friends here and there. Been cast in little minor things here. So,
Yeah,
um,
that's really awesome. And I mean, one thing about stop motion is that a lot of people, when you get involved in stop motion, you realize that there's so much involved, and sometimes there's not always a lot of just musicians that are, your friends or, Foley artists and so forth. And a lot of times you had to solve these problems. So when you first started getting into stop motion, like how did you handle audio and what did you do to record your voice and your music as well?
oh boy, that's embarrassing. In order to address this question, we have to go back to 1994 or so, maybe even before that, maybe 92. I started animating like a lot of people because at the time you had two choices. You had either film, well, basically Super 8 or 16 millimeter if you can afford it. So actual celluloid film, and the soundtracks on those, or you and I never really learned how to record directly on film. Or you had a fairly simple setup with a VCR, and what you would do is you'd either animate on a video cassette tape, which was kind of it had a lot of pitfalls. There were like things known as dropouts and rainbows that are associated with editing. Even with applying a erase set, occasionally you get those dropouts. And so we had the family VCR, and I especially liked recording audio on a very old VCR that was made in the 70s or 80s. And so what I would do, it had an audio dub function. So I would just record on, just a inexpensive audio cassette recorder. I can't remember what the diameter of that is, but just your standard cassette, like children's music was recorded on, and or not recorded but played back on.
Mm-hmm.
That you get from the store. So, if you record it on the, I think it's half-inch audio cassette tape, if I have that correct, or actual videotape, it didn't have the hiss associated with those audio cassette recorders
Right.
because the tape was a little thicker. And I think there might have been like some kind of noise canceling feature in the VCR itself that would play the audio quieter. I'm not exactly sure how that works. I'm not an expert on that, but so I had a friend named Aiden, and we would do our little, we'd animate Ghostbusters toys, and then we'd just have them get into zany situations with little other toys, like even if they're not actual Ghostbusters action figures. And we would just record little or edit little snippets of stuff that we saw on television. We'd sync it up with our amateurish little animations. And they didn't move every frame. There was no way to do that with consumer VCRs. So we just got it to be as smooth as we possibly could, and then, haphazardly dropped in little sound effects here and there, some which we would actually make with our mouths. So it was very inexpensive, hit or miss, but it was fun.
Yeah, I remember those days, and I used a lot of similar technology as well back then, and I always found that when I would record on something like, oh, I see Webster's running to me here. Actually, let me, I think Webster wants to join in. Do you want to, let me see if I can get him connected real quick, Don, not to cut you off.
Yeah.
Okay, let me see. See if I can call him. I think it's his mobile phone. Seems to be asking me for a payment plan to call him, which is a bit strange. Okay, here we go. I hope that technology doesn't fail me tonight. I don't hear a dial tone. Let's see. Webster, if you're there, I don't hear you. I'm hoping there's no issue with Google Talk and Skype. I hope there's not a conflict with all the drivers from my audio card. I know we're connected, but I'm not able to hear him. Oh, man. All right. Webster, if you can hear me, perhaps it's muted on your side. You might want to check. All right. Well, I'm going to see. Maybe Webster can resolve it on his end. I don't know if it's on my end. Let me make sure. Let's see here. Yeah, I apologize for all the technical stuff, guys. Normally when I do a live show, it's just myself. And I'm definitely falling behind on trying to get multiple things going at the same time. All right. Let's see.
If you want, I can hang up, and then you can bring me back in as needed.
Yeah, I guess we could try that. See if it works. Sure. All right. Let me call you back in about 2 seconds then.
Okay.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. So now I'm going to see if I can resolve this issue with not being able to hear Webster. And it could be because my settings are not set up for the audio to play through my speakers, which is one possibility. And my speakers are set improperly. So.
Okay.
There we are. I hear you, Webster.
Can you hear me? All right, good.
There we
good.
go.
I was thinking it was on my end, but.
Awesome.
Hey, Don.
Well, I hear you now. So great.
Great. There's probably a delay, so it'll be awkward.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't sound like there's a delay with this particular call, but I know there's a delay with my viewers. And it's about, I think, about a 10 or 15-second delay, which is kind of drastic. So right now
good.
they are
That's
actually...
good. So you have a chance to edit out any swear words in 15 seconds.
That's right. Okay, now I'm going to try to call back Don.
Oh, okay.
And juggle all this stuff here. I'm sure it'll work just fine. Okay, here we are, and... all right. Says it's
Hello.
calling.
Please state your name after the tone, and Google Voice will try to connect you.
Mark. And we were just discussing. Have you heard what we were discussing, Webster?
No, I only have a dial-up connection, or a data connection through my phone at the studio. So.
And juggle all this stuff.
So
here.
I didn't. I don't have enough bandwidth to listen to the live show and do Skype at the same time.
Okay. Now listen, Don. Are you there?
Yeah.
It sounds like I'm still hearing an echo there. Did you unmute by chance your video? Is that why?
I briefly did, but I muted it again.
Oh, okay. Okay. Awesome. Well, Webster's on now, so you guys.
Hey, Don. How you doing?
Oh.
I can't hear Don. How you doing, Don?
I wonder if Don can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear him.
Oh, okay.
Okay, great. I heard that.
Right, but
I think I heard it through your speaker and your mic, Mark.
Yeah, that's how I'm hearing him too.
Okay, well, maybe what I could do is turn up my speaker a little bit higher here. Maybe that'll help.
So now, how many people are actually listening, and can you tell from the?
Yep, there's about 13 people right now.
Oh, that's not bad. That's a good lucky number.
Yeah, and we've got let's see, we've got Thomas Nickel and Telmo Mendez Leo. We've got Janet. We've got Future 8729, Beard Botnick, Lynn, Jason, Telmo, and Ron Cole that I can tell. So a lot of people.
Ron. Hey, Ron.
Yeah, Ron shared a spider animation during the beginning of the show, which is really cool.
Neat.
Yeah.
Something he did?
Yeah, some sort of very brief clip for maybe 4 seconds long, and it came out really nice.
Cool.
Maybe after the show you could watch the recording and check that out.
Yeah, I love watching the recording.
Now Don and I were just talking about audio technology and stop motion. And Don has a lot of audio experience as a singer, and he's also a musician in terms of using programs on his computer. And I think he's done his own audio on most of his short films. So we were kind of discussing the early technology of using tape decks and VHS tapes and things like that to put our audio together. Now maybe, Don, we can talk a little bit more about what you're doing now, and maybe some of your techniques could be used by some of our viewers.
Yeah. Am I coming through?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay. About in the 90s, I bought a computer that needed to be souped up a bit, and I had a friend who knew someone who did that kind of thing, so I just went in his repair shop and he sold me what I needed, and I was able to make my first audio specific computer that supported video soundtracking, and I still use the same software more or less. It's Sony. Let's see, Acid Music Studio, or I'm sorry, Vegas. Yeah, Sony Vegas. And it's just Sony Vegas Movie Studio.
Oh, okay.
Tried other programs, but I like that one the best. It's the easiest learning curve.
Sure.
Very intuitive layout.
So what are you using to actually record your voice, or are you talking more in terms of like musical composition and so forth?
Well, I would do most of the music in Acid Music Studio, and then I'd import it into Sony Vegas Movie Studio, which has less soundtrack options. It's a simplified interface, but it allows you to kind of pre-render all of your music, and then you just add a simple dialogue track, and you can listen. Well, you can't really listen frame by frame on it, but it's good enough that I'm able to hear it and tell if it syncs up. Sometimes I have to put the video first. So, but yeah, you know, we were talking about the number of films. I did 3 micro shorts, which basically are between 30 seconds and a minute long, just to kind of test the water a little bit. I didn't have a lot of time.
Mm-hmm.
And I probably had a shorter attention span, too. And I was trying to avoid what happened when I was younger, which is I actually showed someone my animation, and they turned the audio way up. This was a guy at Wilmington Studios. When I met him in the lobby of the company on my way on a family vacation back to Seattle from California, visiting Disneyland, and he was a nice guy. His name was John Ashley. And
yeah, awesome.
And so he invited us back for a studio tour 2 weeks later, and I brought a video of the animation that I'd done for fun, you know. And he actually heard the soundtrack because he cranked it really loud.
Oh yeah.
And it just me going like wee ha, you know, like in falsetto, and I had quite a resonant voice as a kid. I was a bit embarrassed because I think other people could hear it. It was like during the lunch break at the studio, and that's when he said, "Always show your best work." And I was like, "Oh, okay, I will do that." So then after that, I learned all I could about audio production, just experimenting with Sony Vegas.
Sure.
And a few years later. So.
Now, Future here is asking a question that's really common. He's asking, do you move your character's mouths, then lip sync or record the audio and then animate? So that's pretty common. What would you say about that?
Well, when I started out, I just would record the video or the animation first, and then I would try to make it match up. And but really, the best way to go, and I quickly learned this, is that you want to do all the audio first, if possible, or any audio that needs to sync with the animation. You do that first, and then you plan around it on X sheets, exposure sheets, and I haven't done anything. I haven't done a lot of professional stuff. It was mostly just for YouTube, for fun. I did license a film called Storytime with Graham to some folks at MTV in Italy. They had a site called MTV Italia.
Okay.
I was surprised they actually wanted to pay to show it in Italy. That was just a humorous, little short film, very subversive, violent, bad taste.
Yeah.
I was inspired by Robot Chicken.
Yeah, most it seems like most production companies like to go that route these days.
Yeah, what I became really known for, more or less, on the internet was there was a guy named Knox's Corner at Newgrounds.com, and he would do short clay animated films. That's when I really started getting interested in clay animation again, like being serious about it. And it had been years since I played with clay, because I didn't have a professional way or a very good way of doing the animation. So I kind of set it aside for a while and focused on audio stuff. But then when I came back to it, I had the best of both worlds. And I submitted a song for his consideration for a soundtrack of a film he was working on. A feature-length animated film called Play World Off the Table. I believe you were, you did a project or two with it.
Yeah, I did. Now, are you there?
Yeah.
Okay. I did. Robert Benfer and I worked together on a thing called Villain. And I made about maybe 20 or maybe 25 puppets for him out of clay. And unfortunately, rumor has it that the IRS came after him or something insane like that, and he had to drop the project. But I had sent him, props and trees and puppets, and it was going to be really big. And unfortunately, it fell apart on his end.
But he was able to pay you for the puppets?
Yeah, he did, and that was the crazy part. I got paid for it, and nothing ever came of it.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah, I remember looking forward to it, but not seeing much development on that. I hope that, or I've been holding out hope that he would return to it one day. But he ended up using a song that I wrote just as a gas, just for fun. I was kind of mocking 80s, I called it 80s guitar, wheedly guitar solo music. And it was kind of a pop punk take on the rave culture. And yeah, like I said, it was just a joke. I have no ill will towards any of that stuff.
Sure. Yeah.
But it was just it was a take on the shallowness of the rave scene that I grew up around in Seattle, and
well, that would have definitely used a lot of heavy audio production for something like that.
Yeah, and I originally I tried to do this awful sounding pseudo guitar solo because I didn't actually know how to play a guitar, at least not at that technical level of proficiency. So I actually tried making the sound with my vocal folds or vocal cords, if you will, using my voice because that's something that I knew how to control more. And I think I showed it to Knox, Robert Benfer, and he was like, "Why don't you put a real guitar solo on that?" And I spent some time actually learning to play that particular guitar solo for that. Several audio dubs later, and I was surprised that I was able to pick it up and actually play what I envisioned, and he put it in the credits of his movie, and it just took off as far as being more or less known on the internet. I was a nobody at the time online on YouTube, and then I started posting clay animations on there and became notorious for taking risks as far as doing subversive little animations, especially after in 2008 when I did Story Time with Graham. Landed on a couple of animators blogs. And by then I'd learned a lot more about audio production, and that's something I really started in 2000, 99 or 2000. So it's been 9 years.
Now, so when you were, let me put my speaker down a little bit here. So when you were first working on all these projects, I mean, what kind of computer did you have, and I mean, was it something like, would you recommend a Macintosh or a PC for something like audio production specifically?
I couldn't afford a Macintosh. My dad had one, and I used it when I lived at my childhood home. But when I moved out in my 20s, I just didn't have the money for one. I was working full time in a regular job in retail, and I just bought what I could afford.
Yeah.
Allergies. But I went the PC route because that was the cheapest.
Yeah, same here. That's what I've always used. The audio software I've used varies, but there's one that's free called Audacity. Have you ever used Audacity?
Yeah. I never really learned how to use it super well, but it has features other programs, especially free programs, don't have. So you kind of owe it to yourself to learn how to use it if you want to do stuff like advanced compression. Sony Vegas has some, and Acid Music Studio has some plug-in style compression and effects. I prefer to actually use a guitar effects pedal because it's cheaper than using an actual dedicated vocal processor. And I found that if you equalize it just right, it picks up the most resonant frequencies of your voice without spending a ton of money. And it mixes together pretty well because it drops out a lot of the frequencies that are barely audible, but that can affect the mix. So for that song for Claypool at the Raven, that was I sent it to a friend who had actually gone, I think he went to school for audio production, and he said that all he really had to do was put compression on it to kind of normalize and even out all the dynamic volume or range.
I see.
He didn't have to do a lot of work on it, and I was surprised that he didn't have to do more because I had a very humble setup.
Yeah, I mean, I've always kind of used whatever I have available. Either I had a friend that gave me Adobe Premiere a long time ago for free on a disc. Just he had a spare copy, cough, and so that was always what I used for editing many years back. And just the older technology compared to like Sony Vegas now, where you can splice in your audio, is just so much better than some of the older good programs. The cost is just come down so much for animators to utilize for their projects, which I think that's really liberating for a lot of people.
Yeah, what I always found a bit surprising is that the older versions like 1.0 of Acid Music Studio are actually more intuitive than the later versions. So I prefer mostly to use earlier versions whenever possible. I think I might be up to like 7.0 now and 8.0 in the Vegas Movie Studio, but I still have XP, so I don't have I have XP Media Center Edition, So I probably couldn't, my software, my operating system probably couldn't even afford or couldn't support the newest versions, which were written for later versions of Windows.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it might be compatible, but I haven't really explored that. So yeah, never overlook an earlier version if you can get more out of it.
Sure. Now let's ask, since Webster's on the line here, Webster, what? I mean, you just got done working on a major project where audio is sort of the central feature, and it's called Sean Lennon's Surreal Ode to Michael Jackson's Pet Bubbles.
It's called Bubbles Burst.
Oh, it's called Bubbles Burst. That's right. That's the actual name for it. I gotcha. Yeah, I'm sorry. I was reading a headline there.
Did you, by the way, just to step back a bit, did you post, I'm sending Mark a bunch of pictures, and Don, you mentioned John Ashley, and
yeah.
I was looking around my little studio here for objects that John Ashley's fingers were on, and I found that John Ashley's one of the most talented, if not the most talented people I know, and a nice guy to boot. But I found an object that he had his fingers on, which is he used to do a lot of my lighting back when I had my basement studio in Portland, and he showed how to reverse a clothespin so that the pointy end is the part that grips. And I still don't really know how to do it, and I still have a few sitting around that John had modified, and so I took a picture of those. Did you post those, Mark?
Yeah, I've got both of those up right for everybody to see on screen right now. What it is a clothespin where the spring seems to be taken apart, and the two paddles kind of flipped over on each other. And you can see in this picture, where here is a lighting setup with some barn doors, and it looks like what he's done is he's squeezed the long end onto the barn door somehow.
Yeah, I mean, it's great because, and I don't know if John came up with this. He probably did. It might be a Hollywood trick. I don't know, but it just enables you to get a better grip and a finer grip on things, And clothespins, of course, are used. The old joke about the C-47s or the old story, but clothespins are used in Hollywood. But this reverse clothespin is really clever, and I think it's a John Ashley invention. But
wow, that's cool.
Yeah, that's really neat. John has all kinds of weird tricks, I've heard, like this.
He's amazing. What? So we were talking about audio.
Yeah, just the the theme for tonight is more, it's not really a theme, but the general topic is audio. And being that Don has a lot of experience, I thought I would ask him, how he did things. And now for you, you've been working in animation for many years as well. And your latest project seemed to be, you had to obviously line up a lot of soundtracks and things and match maybe the moves of your puppets to the beat of the song, I guess.
In this one, it was only in a general sense. Like I did the animatic, and I tried to, design the sequence to be dramatic as the music was dramatic. But they had their own editor, and he modified it a bit, so I didn't quite end up hitting the exact beats that I wanted to. But overall, I didn't. There's no lip sync in this sequence, so it was just a matter of kind of treating the song as incidental music, so that the dramatic parts of the story. There's a bit of a sinister part of the story where you see that there's paparazzi waiting for Michael Jackson and Bubbles as they're about to land in their bathtub. And I tried to time that in with a part of the music that sounded more sinister. But that's about it, really. There wasn't a lot of audio for me on this project. Now, I posted some pictures of some of the models sitting around here. Did you?
Yeah. Let's look at the looks like their spaceship. Gonna load that up here. Oop, where'd everything go here? Okay, so are you still there?
Yeah.
Okay. So it looks like we got like a spaceship made out of some maybe plastic and maybe some foam or something.
Yeah, it was. I had Fawn Davis, his crew, put that together on a low budget, just because he's really good with hard surface type models like spaceships and buildings and things like that. So and I was too busy to do it myself. So that's built out of that like carved foam and styrene, and it's an homage to the Moonwalker movie, which Sean Lennon was in as a kid, and which I also worked on. And then I don't know if you've got the other pictures up, but there's a picture of the I sent a picture and I put a Sharpie in there for scale of the house.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And that was built by Damon Bard. Damon did the puppet design and sculpted everything pretty much, and did all of the miniatures other than the spaceship and one Michael Jackson sculpt of the robot Michael Jackson. That was by somebody else. But this house is really tiny. You can see from the size of the Sharpie how small it is. And there were 3 scales of house. There was a very, very tiny one. And then there was this one, which is the medium size for sort of a fly into the window shot. And then there was a larger one for the back to be behind some characters. And it was really low budget, so it was just that's all built out of foam core and wire and foam and spackle and paint. It's very simple.
Awesome.
And then there's the picture of the Michael Jackson robot, which was sculpted by Mike Murnane, who's a friend of Damon and mine, and he worked on Hell and Back for Shadow Machine and a bunch of other DreamWorks projects as well. And so it's paying homage to that sequence in Moonwalker where Michael turns into a robot and then into a spaceship, but it's also not Michael Jackson. It's also the actor that Les Claypool got to play Michael in the live action portion of the video is Noah Fielding, who's this British comedian. So it's Damon's design is really clever because it's a cross between Noah Fielding and Michael Jackson. So and then this robot Michael Jackson looks a little more like the real Michael because we designed it to look like the sculpts that actually Rick Baker did for the original sequence in Moonwalker, which is people think it's CG, but it's not. It was before CG. And then I posted just a picture of some of the replacement clay heads of Noah Fielding, Michael Jackson.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. Like when I watched the video, I thought you guys had sort of done a cross between, like a morph between Michael and the actor.
Yeah.
And it came out great. And so one of the things that Don Carlson, he invented Puppet Putty. And I think I asked you already, but did you use Puppet Putty as part of these character heads?
Yeah, I've been using it in everything. I mean, I haven't done a tremendous amount of clay animation until just, I haven't been doing a lot of clay animation until just recently. But he sent me some a couple of years ago now, or a year and a half ago, and I started using it on the, I started using it on the Candyman piece that I did for Primus, for Les Claypool, and started mixing it into the Van Aken. And I find that, and Don and I have spoken or chatted a bit about this, that the Van Aken clay that we've been using since the days that Van Aken bought the company that previously I guess was either Leisure Clay or Avalon, the quality and consistency in terms of batch to batch consistency has gone way down on their clay. Like I actually bought a brick of one of the colors that doesn't have a lot of pigment, the ivory, just a month ago, and it was so bad. At this when I broke it open and started using it, it's just like working with chalk, and so I actually had to take it back, and I couldn't believe it. So I
That's
add
pretty bad.
in, it's terrible. I mean, it was always the case that the sort of more rich colors in Van Aken had the ones that had more pigment were more chalky, but now it's even the clay that doesn't seem to have a lot of pigment is chalky, but it changes from batch to batch, so their consistency is weird. And So I'm kind of trying to move away from Van Eyck, and I use it for the colors, but I mix in a lot of Don's, puppet putty, which is waxy and is nice. In the old days, we used to mix in Pongo with
Yes.
the Van Eyck to give it a. But Pongo has problems of its own. It's not good for actually animating. It gives you a nice surface and it helps with some of the chalkiness, but it's not good for animating. And the Don's Puppet Putty is a nice in between. It gives you a little bit of a waxy sheen. It gives you a nice finish. And so I mix in about 10% to all my colors now.
That's great, and they look very nice. They look very smooth. Like you're saying, it's not sort of like a matte finish, and it's not too glossy. It's kind of like in the middle.
Yeah.
So when you're smoothing it out, do you find that you need to use mineral oil, or what do you? I mean, I guess there wasn't probably a lot of smoothing for you to do, but.
Well, no, there's always some smoothing. I mean, so I end up using just a tiny bit of mineral oil on my fingers to do some of the smoothing. Mostly, it's just about keeping your hands really clean and I learned this lesson again, and I was kind of stupid when I built the armatures. I should have used less wire. Sometimes with clay, it's better to have less of an armature than too much of an armature, because then you go to move the monkey's arms. I made the armature a little too sturdy, and when you go to move them, the clay just shears off the wire. So you should have used less armature on the monkey, but it worked out fine.
Yeah, no, I've got your production photos for Bubbles Burst on your Facebook album, and I'm gonna load up the one where you're looking at Bubbles and Michael, and they're in the bathtub.
Yeah.
So the scale of your characters, they seem fairly small, but were they all pretty much the same scale?
I generally work in a small scale, and this one they were a little even smaller than usual because the trick with the bathtub was I didn't want to, I try to get ready-made because the budget was low. I tried to get ready-made things as much as I could, so I found a ready-made porcelain bathtub that looked really, really good. It's the one I used, and it was at a set scale, and I didn't think I'd be able to get a bigger one that looked as good as that. So I had to build them to the scale of the bathtub. So I ended up being a little bit smaller than what the scale I would normally work in, and they're really tiny. They're about, Michael's about he's about 6 inches tall, and his head is, about. I could even the eyes that I used were doll eyes that were, I think they were 22 millimeter doll eyes, so pretty small. Not the smallest character I've ever animated, but small, And
Yeah.
When you're working alone or mostly alone, and you're working on a low budget, working smaller is really a bonus because your sets don't have to be as big. Your lighting setup is not as big. It just if you can do it, it's tough, in terms of detail. But if you can do it, working smaller helps you budget-wise. And this is something that Harryhausen used to do. Harryhausen's skeletons, for instance, on Jason the Argonauts are very tiny.
Yeah, I guess because you had to fit like 7 of them in one shot, right, or something like that.
I'm not sure. Hey, I've seen him speak multiple times, when he was alive, but I never. I'm not sure why, but he talked about working small. He does like to work. He just did like to work small.
Yeah, but that also has its own problems where trying to animate hands and things is sometimes difficult if it's too small. But it looks like the hands on your characters were a bit oversized, which is.
Yeah, they're a bit oversized. No, the hands were a big problem though, because my studio at the time didn't. I'm working it's a crazy setup. I'm working out of 2 storage containers, like cargo containers that are powered and lit at a facility in Richmond, California, and it's a great setup. I love it, but up until just recently, I didn't have air conditioning, so yeah, the puppets were getting pretty warm, and the fingers were starting to droop and fall apart between frames. It was kind of bad.
Oh man.
Yeah, but it worked out.
So did you wait until like maybe nighttime, maybe after hours to to animate because it would be cooler,
No.
or because I can imagine in my mind, like if you're in a cargo container and the sun comes up and it's 100 degrees outside and
It didn't get that hot. It didn't get that. It only got that hot after I was finished, thank God. But no, it was okay.
Awesome.
For the most part, I was able to shoot just fine. It wasn't stopped by the heat. But
that's good. Well, I mean, that's one of the things about Don Carlson's Puppet Putty also is that it
exactly.
seems to do pretty good with the heat.
Exactly.
Now, I'm looking at one picture. I see it says here Damon did the initial character sculpt and fabrication, and in front of the camera, I alter them for animation. Here, Damon checks on the designs to make sure I'm keeping them on model. So was that an issue trying, because with clay, of course, when you resculpt something, you can squash the entire side of a character's face, and you had to obviously resculpt it. But was that an issue at all for you on this project?
In one particular shot, like a shot that I wanted to get a certain expression, the shot where he points to the house, and I wanted to get this sort of manic expression on Michael's face. Damon pointed out, unfortunately, he wasn't able to come to the studio that day and inspect it, but he pointed out when he saw the shot that there was this crease that I ended up with on one side of the face, which made him look really weird and old. And I ended up softening it in the comp. But and then another time, like I was struggling to get the smile face, which was different than the initial. Like the opening shot has the puppet sort of as Damon designed him, exactly unmodified, and then there's a point, and it's a smile, and then there's a point later in the piece where it's a smile after he sees the house that I wanted to be more like Michael Jackson. So Damon coached me a lot on the shapes, there, because I'm a little rusty. And of course, I'm working with another. I know Damon's style super well, but I'm working with, I want to be true to what he initially sculpted, and then with the monkey, like we both agreed that we wanted to use monkey bone, as the monkey essentially. And ever since I worked on monkey bone, whenever I'm drawing a monkey, I pretty much draw monkey bone, and Damon did most of the design on the monkey, and most of the replacement animation sculpts were Damon's. So we both agreed that was the way to go, but he got really elaborate with the way he used the different colors on the initial sculpt of the monkey. So I had to simplify it a bit and he put these little hairs on the ears, which were he put these tiny little bits of clay on the ears to represent the hair that is in the live action version, and oh my God, they were so tedious, and because I had to animate them because they're flying through the air and the wind would go by, and it was really good to have them to animate to be part of the effect. But those ears and the hairs on the ears were they were always falling off, and I had to try and stick tiny wires in them, and I had to build up the clay behind them so they wouldn't fall off. It's hard.
Yeah, well, I mean that's kind of what I was thinking, because of the scale being that small, you'd run into problems like that.
Yeah, the scale was super small, and like for the monkey's head, and there's that one shot where his head fills the frame, and the editor in post, I don't really like it, but he added a zoom, as the monkey is looking off into the distance after they first arrive at Neverland, and so the monkey's head fills an HD frame, and it's just an inch across, it's tiny. So it's amazing all of that tiny, all those tiny tool marks blown up big. And actually, I finished. When I delivered the shots to the editor, I did them in 4K. So
wow.
I don't think they're going to release a 4K version of it, but the resolution is kind of enormous on those, and on the final shots, and
no kidding.
You can see every little mark. Yeah.
So what kind of camera were you using? A Nikon or Canon for?
When I was, I purchased the camera I decided to go with a few years ago was the one they use at Shadow Machine, because I spoke with Eric Adkins. He's a pretty well-known cinematographer, especially in stop motion, And he kind of explained to me that the smaller sensor it's kind of like shooting 16 millimeter in film versus 35, and in terms of the scale of what you're shooting, because you're using a smaller sensor, it's kind of better for miniatures.
Yeah,
so,
more grain to it.
No, it's the ratio of it has to do with the ratio of the lens, the focal length to the size of the sensor or the film. So like, in 16 millimeter, a shorter lens turns into a longer lens because you're only using the center. It's a long conversation, but basically you can get away with a smaller sensor, and you're actually, there are benefits to it when you're shooting miniatures. So I use this relatively cheap Canon 60D.
Oh, okay. That's the same camera I use. Oh, that's pretty neat.
There you go. Yeah.
See that?
Yeah, it's really good. And also, there's a price point. I can buy a camera, and I'm not spending. I'm not buying a 5D for what, 2,500 or 1,500.
Yeah.
I'm spending around 500 for a camera. So, and I'm using my old lenses. I'm using my old Nikon lenses, and they're crystal razor sharp. So. It's great.
Yeah, I mean the final product looks great. Maybe I could let me load up the part where the animation begins on the video, so everybody can kind of get a taste for what your animation looks like. And it's not all stop motion, obviously. So some people, I think, made a comment about that. I think somebody posted that the stop motion was the best part of the whole thing.
I think that was Ron, and I thank him for that. And some people have said the same thing on YouTube. There's a lot of hatred for the video on YouTube because of the way they, in the live action, sort of portrayed Michael. But I didn't have, I don't know what they intended exactly. There's an interview with Sean about it. All I know is that the part that I did, I did not intend it to be a dig on the guy, because I love Michael, and that's all.
Yeah, no, I understand. Yeah, I mean it's controversial. It's like a big conspiracy theory on the internet, and a lot of emotions, and so I understand. So what about these space scenes now? I'm gonna pause it here. Looks like I just paused it. Where Michael Jackson is converting from the spaceship into the robot puppet. There's a lot of green screen going on there, and there's like a planet or two. What sort of compositing system did your editor use? Was he using like a Adobe Premiere or? Well,
no, I did the compositing. The editor just cut it all together, and unfortunately, the editor also added some zooms. So he added a zoom into that final shot, which I'm not happy with, and he also cut that shot short. So eventually, I'll post the original shot, which has a little bit longer because you fly past like 3 or 4 more planets than what's in the cut, and you don't zoom in so tight on the characters at the end, and it's an awkward zoom. But I do all the comps, and I have a little bit of help. I actually outsource a little bit on this show to a guy in India who contacted me, and he has a roto company. They do sort of element prep for television and features. Mm-hmm. And I worked in India a few years ago, so I have a sort of a different attitude about outsourcing than I used to, because I've been there and met the artists. But I did outsource just one shot, which was the previous shot to the one the shot where he first rises out of the bathtub and turns into the robot. He had a lot of rig and an uneven green screen, so I had to get some help, and luckily he did a great job. And that final shot, I did all the roto, and it suffers a little bit from it. I did the rig removal, and there's a little bit of edging on the characters, but some of that was intentional because I wanted to make sure they separated from the background. But I used After Effects.
Oh, okay, After Effects.
I'm a pretty good After Effects guy, and all the fancy compositors I work with at the CG houses use Nuke. But in Previs Land, we use After Effects a lot, and I have a pretty good stash of plugins that like, for instance, there's a great plugin by a company called Trapcode, and the plugin is called Starglow, and which is what I used for all the Starglows, and it lets you dial in all these different kinds of glows based on the luminosity of the frame.
Very cool. It looks nice.
Thanks,
Actually, the lighting and everything. Obviously, you must have composited it in when they're in the bathtub and they're flying over the hills, the green hills and so forth. And there's like an orange sky back there with red clouds. Just the lighting and the overall look is really nice. This looks pleasing to the eye.
Great. Yeah, I don't do a lot of stuff that's most of my work is sort of scary and dark, but it's fun to do something where I got to do a stylized magic hour shot with all these colors, and and I'll post it eventually. I'll do a making of video, and I'll post some of the background plates, because I shot all of the, I say motion control, but it's not, for the most part, not motorized motion control. It's just hand motion. I shot the background plates of Damon's set, and they're gorgeous. They turned out, the background plates of just flying over this miniature set are just gorgeous. I just love to look at them by themselves, and they're longer than the shots in the actual final cut, and they're just gorgeous. It's just really fun to get that parallaxy feeling of motion over a miniature set. It's just kind of, I don't know, it's just breathtaking. It was really fun to shoot those.
Yeah, it's really, really nice. Now,
and with the lighting was all me as well, because I didn't have a budget to hire a cinematographer, unfortunately. And excuse me, for one shot in particular, I tried to call upon Don and my mutual friend John Ashley. I tried to bring forth his knowledge from my memory, my virtually create him, and Dave Trappy, another cinematographer who I worked with in Portland in the old days, who's a friend of John's, and I tried to think like them, or maybe like Pete Kozaczyk or Mark Eifert or Eric Adkins, and I tried to imagine what they would do, and I remembered that they would try to do something in the lighting that would communicate something not in the frame, which is also a trick that illustrators use. You try to communicate more that's in than what's in the story. You try to add to any piece. It's all about story, and you try to, with the lighting, tell a story about something that's not in the frame. So in the shot where I think my favorite shot of the piece is actually one with no clay animation. It's actually the throne room shot. And that was the throne room, where we fly through the window of the house that I sent the picture of, and you see this little room, and it's got Michael's chair, and it's got Bubbles' chair, and Bubbles' chair is surrounded with candy and bananas and stuff, and Michael's chair has his crown of the King of Pop. And I found some miniatures at the toy store. I found 2 chairs that were from separate kits that were the perfect size, and I found a miniature piano, and I found a little day bed or love seat or something, or bench. And then Damon went to this miniature store that's here in the Bay Area and found some miniature wallpaper and stuff, and the textiles, and he put it all together, and it's just a tiny miniature. I mean, it's like the size of a shoebox, literally. It's just a little bit bigger than a shoebox, and I love the shot. It's the only shot of that in the piece, and I just love the shot. And for the lighting, I tried to communicate that there was, a bit of magic hour light, even though it's coming from the wrong direction. It's coming through the window, and so I put a gobo. I did a foam core cutout of the cross, the support braces of the window, and I put a sliver of light coming through the window from out of frame into that shot. So I'm proud of the lighting in that too.
Yeah, it's very nice. The only thing that's out of scale is the piano. It's a little bit small.
Yeah, it's a little bit small. Yeah, when you're sourcing things that are ready-made, you sometimes can't find. Yeah, that's a good point. Thanks, Mark.
No, it looks really awesome. Actually, it's such a quick shot, and the scale and everything, it doesn't give you a lot of time to sort of examine everything in detail, But one thing I noticed is you've got some candy canes and a lollipop, and it looks like a bowl of maybe M&Ms. Are those things that you used in your previous video?
No, because the Candyman video, there was nothing. I actually didn't make any candy for that per se. There wasn't much. I didn't do any of the shots with candy flying around. Those were all Edgar in Colombia. Because
okay.
Edgar ended up doing most of that video because I wasn't available, and I think it kind of turned out okay, and I did a few parts that I'm proud of. I think Edgar had a lot on his plate, and Edgar doesn't think of himself as much of an animator as he is a designer and a sculptor. So he struggled, I think, with some of the animation. But the internet loved it. Everybody. It's funny that, the internet just seemed to love that video.
Yeah, I mean, Edgar's heart is so big. You can kind of tell through his work. Maybe that's kind of what he was, people are picking up on or something. But aesthetically, I think it looked really good. I thought that even though you both have different styles, that it worked. And, oh, sounds like
That's a train. Yeah, that's a train. I'm in the bad part of town.
But I liked it. And I don't know. I think, let me see here. So,
I did build one piece of candy for that, which is the initial candy, that starts the story. I built a miniature puppet of that candy, and it was quite hard for me to build because I wanted it to look like, realistic. So I ended up doing a strata cut, like you would do with a real, like Christmas peppermint, the red and white striped ones.
Yeah.
I did a strata cut of that in Sculpey, and then shaped. I cut, I did the red and white stripes, and then I cut it into chunks, and then formed it around. I think pretty much like you would do it with the real candy. If I examined the candy and tried to build it the same way, but with strata cut, and that was a challenge, and it kind of worked.
Well, I'm gonna see if I can load that up so I can show everybody. So, Candyman. Now, have you actually met with Les Claypool? Because I know he's pretty much all over the place. It seems like. Did you ever sit down and discuss what you were gonna do, or did he just say do whatever you want? What was the process? On
the first thing I did with him, it was with Beats Antique, that band in Oakland, and Les was the guest singer on it, and he had really nothing to do with it.
Okay.
I got the track from Beats Antique, and I was also working through another director on that. And then on the second one, I was working through the same director, Ivan Landau, and he was the main contact with both the band and the band's management. So again, I didn't meet with Les. I didn't meet with Les. And then finally on this one, it was just me. So I ended up having a phone conversation with Les and Ivan, where I pitched the idea based on an animatic that I had already, I'd sent him the animatic and he'd seen it, and I walked him through it. So I have spoken to Les once, but no, it's been very weird. It's been a very remote relationship, which is good in a way because he seems to like everything. He doesn't. He didn't make any changes. We just sent him stuff. He said, "Great,
awesome." Well, that's really good. I mean, that's very rare, But
it is rare. It is rare.
But I've seen so many of his videos. They're so out there, like his pig costumes, and he's got that one. What is it? Winona's Big Brown Beaver, where they're kind of they sort of look like clay animation sculpted type characters that are large,
and so many people here in the Bay Area have worked with him. He used to rent. I found out recently that he used to rent an office over near the old ILM studios, and then a lady who you may have met her, Lauren Vogt. she worked on Monkey Bone, and she worked on James and the Giant Peach. She worked on Nightmare, and she used to work at ILM, and she's super talented, fabricator. And she worked on. I found out she worked on Winona's Big Brown Beaver. She worked on doing some of the makeup effects for that.
Oh, really?
So just a ton of people. Yeah, just a ton of people that worked. It's kind of like Michael Jackson. Like over the years, I've met a lot of effects people who've worked with Michael on either on the makeup effects end or on the CG side. Just people who've interacted with him.
Yeah. Well, it's really neat that there's like this creative gathering of different minds, and everything is so unique. Like even, I guess this is probably just after James and the Giant Peach, The Devil Went Down to Georgia. Didn't Paul Berry? I think Paul Berry animated that, didn't he?
Well, that was Mike Johnson directed and animated most of it, and then Paul Berry did the really fantastic shot of the roots emerging from the ground and becoming the little character coming out of the roots and walking on top of the base or I think it's the base, yeah. And but Mike Johnson directed that, and he did it at the old Skellington studio, in between. I believe it was in between Nightmare and James. He did that. Between Nightmare and James, Disney kind of kept that studio rented, and Henry was there, but he allowed animators to do their own shorts. And so Rich Zimmerman made Birdhouse, Tim Hiddle made Canhead, Mike Johnson made Devil Went Down to Georgia, and Justin Cohn made a really silly movie with a guy in a giant yucca plant. I think there was another one. But yeah, that was a very productive, weird little time, where these guys had this window into using, really terrific production value because they had all these resources at their disposal.
Yeah, it's amazing. And there was also, what was that one with the elephants?
Southbound Pachyderm, which is also Mike Johnson. And what I don't understand, and I haven't asked Mike this, but because I know Mike, and I've seen him in LA just recently, a while back. I'm not sure why Mike stopped doing stuff with Primus. I'm not sure what happened there. I think it's because Primus's manager changed. I don't think it has anything to do with the. I don't think there was a falling out or anything. I'll just have to ask Mike, but I don't know why.
Yeah.
He stopped. And it was after that he that Les kind of stopped doing animated videos, right?
Yeah, I think so. And I think he sort of took a back seat to playing music for a while there too as well. So I don't really know
maybe
if
it all kind of corresponded. Maybe it all kind of
yeah. But I mean, Primus is so unique and out there, and it's great that he embraces stop motion and employs a lot of people as well. And even if you don't get to meet him and everything, it's kind of cool how it trickles down.
Well, I don't know that he employs a lot of people, but he's been a steady over a long term. There's been a good amount of people who worked on stuff for him, and it's nice that this day and age the record labels don't spend money on music videos, so it's nice that they spent a little bit of money on this one and wanted to do something. And I don't know where it'll come of it, but what's really interesting is there's some footage from to get back to kind of the audio thing. I don't know if this is really audio, but rock and roll. Some fans posted some concert footage that they shot from their first concert in Orlando. Sean Lennon and Les Claypool just started this tour as the Lennon-Claypool Delirium, and some fans posted some video, and it looks like an amazing concert because their album is quite good, and they also cover both some Primus classics, and Sean covers one or two of his dad's Beatles songs at the end in the encore, and it seems like it would be amazing to see in person. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean they're and a lot of times they wear a lot of costumes and things, and yeah, I've watched a few on YouTube, and it really is kind of a neat. I'm sure it would be much better in person, but it seems like it's a really neat experience.
Now, did you want to get Don back into the mix here?
Yeah, I don't know. Are you still there, Don? I was just going to ask about that, and I haven't heard him echoing in the background, so I don't know if he's still there. Or... Well, he did write a post in the comments. He says, Michael Jackson was larger than life, so the smaller piano helps to illustrate that. Reminds me of Alice in Wonderland a bit, he says.
You know, one audio story was that it? Did I interrupt?
No, go ahead.
One audio story that I wanted to mention, and I didn't want to go full Hollywood yet, but when I worked, I spent a lot of time over the last few years working for Seth MacFarlane on the TED movies and a few other things. But so on the first TED, this is something I learned. He would record audio either in the office, in the post-production office where I was working doing mocap and previs and post-viz, or he would record it at the Family Guy studio, which was down the street. And when he'd bring it into editorial, and check it, against the live action, he'd record a line of TED and bring it into the live action and see how it was playing and do, a select of the various takes he had done of a given set of lines. He would oftentimes want to speed change it. He'd oftentimes want to speed it up a little bit. And this is something I learned. He's worked with the same audio guy for the last however long Family Guy has been going, right? They have a really nice studio at the Family Guy office in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And they, have Pro Tools there, and they oftentimes, he'll request that they change a line, usually speeding it up a little bit, to just, I don't know, to play better, because comedy is all about the timing. So that was something that we didn't have the capability to do. We didn't have a Pro Tools license in editorial, and we didn't have the capability to do on TED 1. And I experimented with After Effects because I don't do audio per se, but I can speed change a video clip, which is basically the same as audio. I mean, it has audio clip attached. So I did manage to speed ramp a bit of dialogue in After Effects and output an audio file as an option. Yeah, but that's something that is done all the time in Hollywood. Just slightly changing the timing of a line, without really changing pitch.
Yeah, I've always wondered about that, because it seems like, especially like if you're watching Family Guy, there's this one person that will come out of like a closet door and say something really super fast and then go back in the closet door, and you're kind of wondering, how did they get so many syllables in there in such a short amount of time? And maybe that's, I never realized that. So you can actually change the length of an audio clip, and it doesn't change the tone?
The pitch, yes.
The pitch? Yes. Okay. Yeah, because I was thinking if you shortened it, it would be like a higher pitch.
Yeah, if it was analog, if it was tape, you'd get the Alvin and the Chipmunks effect. You'd play it faster, it'd be funny, it'd be higher pitch. If you play it slower, it'll be deeper. But no, with Pro Tools and digital software, you can just change the timing of it. You can just speed it up without changing the pitch.
I see.
So yeah.
That's very awesome.
Excuse me.
Oh, Don says I can call him again, but it makes it hard for me to hear Webster, it says. So, okay. Well, that's fine, Don. If if you want to add anything about audio, just feel free to post it as a comment, and I could read it if it's better for you. That's fine.
Hey, speaking of stop motion history, I actually have Justin Cohn in the other container here. Animating on a piece I'm doing. I'm subcontracting a couple of, in my little, maybe short-lived venture back into having my own shop. I have, I'm doing two music. I did the music video for Les Claypool. I'm doing another music video for Beats Antique. I'm not doing the whole thing. I'm just doing some stop motion shots and some special effect shots in with the live action. And then I'm doing two pieces. I'm subcontracting two pieces to Shadow Machine in Los Angeles, the studio. Mm-hmm. They're doing a show called Greatest Party Stories Ever. They did a first season. You can see most of the clips on YouTube. each story is about a minute long, and they're done in different animation styles. And they did one for season 1. They did one stop motion story, which was by Rich Zimmerman in Clay on Glass. And now this season they're doing about, I don't know, 8 of them. And so I'm doing, or more than that actually, and I'm doing 2 of them, and Justin's animating on one right now, and the other just a number of feet away from me.
Awesome. So is it part of like the contract where you have to get locked in those containers like permanently till you finish your shot, or?
No, luckily it's almost that bad, but it's not quite that bad.
Well, that's awesome. So is it going to be clay animated, or is it going to be like they're going to give you a foam puppet or something, or?
No, I have to take care of the puppet fabrication myself. So I had Ralph Cordero is helping me out on one of the 2 pieces, and Damon's helping me out on the other.
Cool.
And I'm doing a lot of fabrication myself. So one of the 2 pieces is very pure clay, and the other piece is very pure puppet. And it's one of the 2, without giving too much away, one of the 2 has all the characters in it are robots. So that's obviously the one that Ralph worked on, and it's hard models for the most part. Cool.
Yeah. Well, so when can we expect to see those? Maybe 6 months or so, or?
Less than that. My deadline is in July, and I think the show will start. You probably start to see the stuff August, September.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah. Did you see? Let me see if I can load this up real quick. I got this email from. Let me see here. Let me load it up. I just want to make sure I'm correct before I say anything.
How many viewers do we have now?
Right now, we've got about 15 people.
Okay, well, that's 2 more since we started, so that's something.
Yeah, a lot of times the number goes up and down. Sometimes we get, more or less, maybe like 5 or so per minute. It always changes a lot.
It's like the election.
Yes. Let me see here. Okay, I'm going to close this. It is called Monster Island. Have you heard about Monster Island?
Oh, I heard about it. Yeah, I saw that they posted that yesterday. I hadn't heard about it going on, but I just saw that posting, so I'm anxious to see it. I love. I worked with Harry Chaskin at Stupid Buddy Studios in early 2014 on the things they did with the WWE. Did you remember those?
WWE was that
Clam City,
Clam City,
where it was a series of like 1 minute or 2 minute shorts starring puppet versions of based on the Mattel, I think it is, toys of the wrestlers, and so it was the puppets looked like the toys, and it was sort of like a commercial for the toys, but there were also little stories, and all the wrestlers, I guess, who's the head guy? Who's the head guy at WWE?
Is it Vince McMahon or?
Yeah, McMahon fires all the wrestlers and they have to get normal jobs. So I worked on. Oh
yeah, okay.
I worked on one called Alberto the Barista, where, excuse me, it was this one wrestler named Alberto something or other, and he's a barista in a coffee shop, and another wrestler comes in and says, like, there's foam on my no foam non-fat peppermint skim latte, and I don't like foam. I don't know. Anyway, it was funny.
Yeah.
And I worked. Chaskin was the director on those, and I love that guy. He's really great. He's a great director, great to work with.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot about the Stupid Buddy, the Robot Chicken style of animation. I think I finally understood the timing, the way they do their timing and spacing.
So there's a trick. Don Carlson and I were kind of discussing that, because he was saying that they shoot everything at 15 frames per second. Is that true?
It might have been true in the old days. They shoot almost everything on 2s, and they might have been animating. The show might have been done at 30 FPS back in the old days when they were, doing it on the pre-DSLR days. They always shot the show on video, but they didn't used to. They used to use these tiny prosumer cameras and grab the frames from there. So that they might have shot on 30 and on 2s that would be 15 FPS. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But it's more about like the spacing of the animation. Like there's a number of formulas that aren't written down anywhere, but you can see it in their work.
Yeah, there's one sequence for their Star Wars Robot Chicken series where the animator's name is Josh, but I can't remember his last name. He animated Boba Fett, and he's talking to Han Solo and Carbonite. And I don't know if you've seen that shot where he's kind of just gesturing and stuff. And it's just so, Robot Chicken is, the puppet designs and everything are okay, but it's kind of cheap, in a sense. Yeah. But the animation is sometimes better than on it's just so lively. I just love it, the style.
I completely agree. Like, I'm not sure, I never really watched the show that much until I was working there. I was never that into it. I mean, I watched, but every once in a while I'd see one of these things, like usually a Star Wars thing, like on Facebook, and I'd be like, why does this work? Because the voice acting is kind of cheesy, the puppets are cheesy, the way they shoot it is cheesy, but the animation is fucking amazing. Like, there was a shot of like a stormtrooper on the phone, and it's a long conversation and it's like, the animation is incredible. And like when I was there, they had a relatively new animator doing some stuff with Skeletor, and I have these. I saved the files, and it's just incredible. It's like, wow, the performance is just like better than, it's as good as anything ever done, in terms of its animation. And so I guess, between the quality of the performance and the fact that you can hear in the voice acting that they're having fun doing it, it really works at the show. Like, it's a ridiculously, at least at the time, it's a ridiculously fun studio to work at. They're really having fun doing it, and Seth Green is there often. Like, he's there every day. Like, it's a serious, he really has a big. It's not like a remote thing.
Yeah.
Ford's there. He brings his buddies in. You never know what actor he's gonna bring in, and it's just a really fun place to work. Like, people are having fun there. At least when I worked there, and it shows in the final piece. Because all the way through, it's just like a party. The show. I mean, the show feels like it's a party, a visual sort of I don't know.
Yeah,
that's why it works. It's the performance of the animation and the fact that the voice actors seem to be having fun, I think.
Yeah, you can definitely tell. And this one that I'm talking about with Boba Fett was released in 2011. It's already been that long. Wow, 5 years. And Josh Jennings is the animator. Have you ever...
I was gonna say that it was either Josh Jennings or another Josh that I don't know. But Josh, actually, he goes by a different name now, so it's hard to track his work.
Okay.
And he goes by a long name, Savalin Forrest. It's a long story, I'm sure, but anyway, I supervised the animation on a series of Honda commercials at Shadow Machine a few years ago, and he was on it. And he animated one of the spots by himself, and he's a terrific animator. And he was actually the animation soup on a lot of the older Robot Chickens. And so, like, he built a number of the tools, and he's responsible for a lot of the style of the show.
Oh, that's
in the
great.
early days. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember we were in contact before he got his first job, and he actually contributed to my first book. So,
cool.
So it was kind of neat that he actually made it, and it's like you see somebody succeed and, and is successful and that good of an animator, which is just fantastic.
Yeah, he's a great animator. He might be doing one of the pieces for the Greatest Party Stories show right now, and he's based over in your neck of the woods. I think he's either in Pennsylvania or New Jersey.
Oh, okay. Well, I was there. I moved from Pennsylvania back to Missouri, so about maybe 7 years ago, actually. So
that's by the arch. You had a photo of the arch on your Facebook the other day.
That's correct.
Yeah, okay.
About a 4-hour drive from the arch. Yeah.
And there's a Webster University over there, isn't there?
Yes, there is. Actually, when we drove by, I thought to take a picture just to troll you a little bit, but how did you know that? That's pretty funny.
I've known it for a long time. I don't know how I found out, but
Ah,
it is.
maybe it's more famous than I realized. But yeah, I'm looking at your set pieces and everything, and it's just really cool that you are still getting work doing stop motion. Can you say anything about what would you recommend if somebody wants to do what you're doing and work out of a very hot storage container?
Well, before I was working out of I think it's the future. I think the storage container is the future because there's so many of them sitting around. I mean, like we're in, we're in a port city here in the east part of the San Francisco Bay. Oakland has one of the largest ports on the West Coast, and because of the trade deficit, there's more storage containers, full of goods coming in from overseas that America, is buying, and they don't go back. Most of them, because of the trade deficit, there's not a lot of exports. So most of the storage containers, it's cheaper to just send them here and keep them here than it is to send them back.
How about that?
Yeah, so there's literally towers of these containers in lots in the East Bay here. There's a place over by the Coliseum that sells them for about $1,500 a piece, with shipping to wherever you want it. And there's a lot of people that are converting these storage containers into living units. Like if you look on the internet, there's all kinds of really amazing designs. This place is just a giant. It's like a mini movie studio. This facility is like this big lot with rows and rows of these containers, and most of them are powered and lit. And there's a number of artists here. The guy next to me restores antique jukeboxes, and it's really good. And I do have air conditioning in one of the 2 units now, so it's not so hot. And it's cheap enough that it sort of eliminates. The Bay Area is very hard. It's very expensive in the Bay Area, and the budgets are low. So I really had to. The only way I could have done these jobs is if I minimize this overhead cost. So this does that for me for the most part. I mean, it's still really tight, but.
So is it sort of like when you get one of these containers, there's like a big lot that you rent a space, or?
No, I'm just renting the unit, and like the parking's not an issue. I park near the container, and most of the containers are used for storage, but a few people are using them as workshops, and so it's not right now anyway. It's not there's no crowding. There's also a warehouse nearby. If I got really busy, I could expand into the warehouse and rent a space there. But for now, I prefer being able to scale up and scale down as I need to. And the storage container itself is about 8 by 20. So it's perfect stage size, So Justin's working in the one down the way. He can close the door, and keeps most of the light out, and it's about the size of a typical stop motion stage.
Right, that's awesome.
And it has a wooden floor, so I can screw into the wooden floor to lock stuff down.
I was just going to ask you that, like, if you're going to have your set on a flimsy floor or of some sort, but it's sturdy for stop motion, obviously.
Dude, it's totally sturdy. It's actually ideal for stop motion because it's all one hard container, and it's on a concrete. It's on a parking lot basically. It's on solid asphalt. And if there's an earthquake, you're in a box that's all one piece. So nothing's going to move except for what moves via inertia.
Yeah.
And you can the floor is wooden, so I can screw into the floor. The walls are a little bit inconvenient because I can't really attach anything to the metal walls. But it's only that there's hooks in the walls, so it's just that I haven't completely engineered the way to hook things into the walls.
What about like a magnetic system? Maybe get some
yes.
neodymium magnets or something.
Yes, I have a couple, and I'm using them to put up some. I've used them to block out some light with some fabric. So I don't think they're strong enough. Like I can't. In my basement in Portland, I was able to, with the wooden. You remember the wooden beams overhead? I was able to use that as a lighting grid.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't have light stands at the time. So Ashley suggested, well, do this. Take some pipe. Some pipe fixtures, plumbing pipe. And make little posts and put them on pieces of wood and then clamp the wood to your rafters, and you have a built-in lighting grid, and that worked really well. And I can't really do that in the storage container yet, but I could eventually. Like if I really engineered it, I could have a pipe system overhead to do the lighting.
Now, could you weld things in there, or is it had to be where you move in and you had to be able to move out and leave it in pristine condition, or is it actually like yours outright? I mean,
no, I can't really. Yeah, I can't structurally change the container.
Yeah,
No,
well, that would be cool if you could. Though.
I didn't buy the container. Yeah, I mean, like I'm saying, like if I had a piece of property, I could just buy a container for just a little bit more than $1,000, and these ones are set up with power, so it's more convenient. But yeah, if I had a piece of property, I could do that. I could just stack them up, and there's shops opening up. Like in LA, there's a little mini mall that's all out of storage containers. Like it's like they've cut the sides open, and there's there are little kitchens and little boutiques and things.
That's neat. So it's like I imagine if you're in an area where a lot of ships come in, and that's where most of the trading ports probably are, not far from where you live. There's probably a huge abundance of those there that people are utilizing. I've never seen that where I live, but that sounds really awesome.
I think they're available everywhere. Like up in Oregon, my hometown, I go up there quite often. There's actually a place that sells them up there. There's just so many. It's what we use for shipping goods, so they're everywhere, and they just keep coming.
Yeah,
there's no shortage of them.
That's amazing. Yeah,
I think it's the future.
Where I live, what they do is they take they dig trenches in the ground, and they take these old school buses and drive them in there and bury them with dirt and make shelters, which I always thought was kind of weird.
What?
Yeah.
You're not joking?
I'm not joking. Totally serious.
These are like survivalists who are doing that, right?
I think probably survivalists and people that live out in the country where there's lots of tornadoes.
Oh yeah.
They will leave like
cool.
the back door is sticking out a little bit, so that the emergency exit.
Yeah.
They'll have that as their entrance door, and they'll just like mound up tons and tons of dirt on top of it, so no tornado can. Suck them out into Kansas or someplace.
That sounds perfect. Yeah, I'm down with that.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is that Stupid Buddy Studios actually started in a Winnebago. I don't know the whole story, but this guy Ethan Merrick and a couple other guys, like they I don't know if they were actually. I think they were doing animation in a trailer. A trailer on wheels.
Yeah.
And then they got the deal to do Robot Chicken, and they expanded into their studio in Burbank. But they have the Winnebago in the studio now as a decoration.
Oh, really? That's cool.
Yeah, you have to see it. It's amazing. They have the Winnebago, and they use it as their symbol. So they have the Winnebago, and they use it as sort of a like a mobile office they have in there. I mean, they don't move it, but it's got an office in there, and they have meetings in it.
That's funny.
But it's on one corner of the stage. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of wondered what happened to Ethan, because he worked on there's like that Mutant Boy or something, or what was that called?
Yeah, Mutant something. Yeah.
Oh man, I can't remember now, but yeah, I used to visit his blog all the time. I thought his work was really fantastic, and then they branched off from Robot Chicken, I think, right? And or like
they branched off from Shadow Machine. I think it's all. Robot Chicken has started all the studios in LA except for Kyoto and Screen Novelties, and I think the way the genesis of Robot Chicken started with Screen Novelties, and and then it went to Shadow Machine, where it was for many years, and then I think Starburns and Stupid Buddy were offshoots of Shadow Machine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to keep up because they keep making more little studios, and I always wondered, how that works because are there more artists coming into the area, like animators, or is it like expanding, or is it like the projects bounce between studios and then everybody goes to one studio and then the next and then the next, or how does that work?
It's a little bit of the last two. The only new studio, I mean, it's sort of stabilized. Like there's Shadow Machine, Screen Novelties, Kyoto Brothers, Starburns, Stupid Buddy, and then there's Bixpix. And Bixpix is the new one. And
Okay.
Bixpix was started from Drew, I can't remember his last name. He pitched this show. Bixpix had been on the East Coast, and Drew had worked there, and Drew had worked on. I met him when I worked on that Community episode, which was Starburns' initial project, and then he got the deal with Amazon through Bixpix to do Tumbleleaf, and so their studio is specifically set up for Tumbleleaf, and they've been around for about 3 years now, I think, and they're on their second or third season. So they're the newest one, but other than that, it's sort of stabilized, and everybody's more or less freelance, and they bounce around between the studios. With the main studios keeping everybody more or less regularly employed, and sometimes less, sometimes more. Is the main studio is Stupid Buddy and Bixpix right now, because they have stable shows. Shadow Machine has kind of dismantled their stop motion unit, unfortunately, and they're outsourcing it to folks like me. And Screen Novelties hasn't been doing a lot lately. I don't know what the deal is with them. Kyoto Brothers. Hey, here's Justin. I'm on a podcast, right? Or is it a podcast or a live show?
You could call it either or.
Okay. I gotta. Justin's asking for. You'll come along for the ride. I'm on. There's about 14 viewers right now.
Well, I don't know if they want to hear about.
What do they want to hear? What happened?
We're having a flicker problem.
Oh, we're having a flicker problem. That's interesting.
Okay. Do you need to go, Webster, or to resolve that?
I do need to go, or you could listen in on our problems.
Yeah, I guess so. Sure. As long as
I should go.
Okay, yeah. That might be a distraction anyway. But thanks for stopping by, Webster, and
okay, you bet.
Maybe we'll do this again sometime.
Yeah, it's been fun.
All right. See you later.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye. All right, so that was Webster Colcord, and giving us a little rundown of the studios in California, which are pretty numerous. And so, wow, that was a long conversation, I guess. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I don't really have much more to add, I guess, because we have gone over time by about 41 minutes. So anyway, thanks everybody for stopping in. Don, also thank you for sharing your experience with audio. And I do believe, and I don't know if Janet, I haven't really been watching the chat so much because I've been concentrating on what Webster is talking about. But I know Janet wants to ask you a question about singing in her childhood or something like that. I'm not really too sure. So you guys might want to work that out in the chat. And I will see the rest of you guys all next week. See you later.